Welcome to Cess Talk Sports and BYs. I'm Auntie Cess, your host, bringing you stories that go beyond the stats. This is where sports meets race, gender, culture, politics, and activism. Joining me today is my fantastic co-host, Political Lil. What's good, Lil?
Hey, Auntie, I'm ready for this one. Today we're tackling not just a sport, but a movement. A movement led by no other than Claressa Shields, the GWOAT herself. Claressa's story isn't just about boxing. It's about fighting through systemic barriers from gender bias to racism and using her platform for social change.
Exactly, Lil. Shields has a new movie coming out, The Fire Inside. And tonight, we're diving into her story, her activism, and how she's changing the game. We'll also take a look at women's boxing historically, because Claressa's fight is a part of a larger battle that's been going on for decades. Ryan Destiny stars as Claressa Shields in The Fire Inside. The Detroit native won awards at the Denver International Film Festival and Celebration of Cinema and Television for her upcoming role. Let's start with some history. Women's boxing isn't new. It dates back to the 18th century when women would fight in unsanctioned exhibitions. By the 20th century, women had to struggle to get recognition as legitimate athletes. Did you know that the first sanctioned women's boxing match in the U.S. didn't happen until 1975?
That's wild. And even then, it wasn't until 2012 that women boxing was added to the Olympics. That was a monumental shift. And guess who came out on top that year? A 17-year-old Claressa Shields from Flint, Michigan.
But before Shields, there were trailblazers like Layla Ali and Jackie Frazier, daughters of legends Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. Layla brought visibility to women's boxing, going undefeated in her career. Her rivalry with Jackie was historic and proved women's matches could draw big audiences. Still, the sport faced gender bias, lack of media coverage, and financial backing. Even today, women in boxing are often treated as secondary to their male counterparts. Now let's talk about Claressa's rise. Growing up in Flint, she faced incredible challenges: poverty, family struggles, and the Flint water crisis. But boxing became her outlet. By age 17, she had won her first Olympic gold medal, and in 2016, she made history again with back-to-back Olympic gold medals.
Her professional career is just as impressive. She's a three-division world champion, holding all four major world titles in two different weight classes. She's undefeated with a record of 15-0. And she's not just a champion, she's a disruptor, challenging how the world views boxing and combat sports, views women in combat sports. Claressa is the first American female to win an Olympic gold medal in boxing. As a professional boxer, Claressa is a 13-time champion belt holder and the only human ever to become undisputed in three weight divisions simultaneously.
She's also been vocal about the disparities in boxing. Despite her achievements, she's had to fight for pay and recognition equivalent to male boxers. She once said, "If I was a man, I'd be a multimillionaire by now." And she's right.
Exactly. Claressa is also a pioneer in mixed martial arts, showing she's willing to step out of her comfort zone to grow her career. She's redefining what it means to be a woman in combat sports.
Now let's break down the systemic barriers that Claressa and other women in boxing face. Lil, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Gender bias. Women in boxing are often seen as less skilled and less entertaining than men, which is absurd. Claressa has had to constantly prove she's not just a great woman boxer, but one of the best boxers, period.
And racism plays a role too. Black women in sports often face stereotypes. Claressa has been labeled too aggressive or too loud when those same traits are celebrated in male athletes. It's the double standard.
Yep, and then there's media representation or the lack of it. Women boxing rarely gets the spotlight, and when it does, it's usually because of someone like Claressa forcing her way into a narrative. She used her platform to advocate for equal pay, better media coverage, and more opportunities for women in sports.
She's also an activist for broader social issues. Growing up in Flint, she's been vocal about the ongoing water crisis, speaking out at events, and using her fame to bring attention to the issue. And it doesn't stop there. Claressa is passionate about helping at-risk youth and empowering young girls to chase their dreams. Breaking these barriers matters because it's not just about boxing, it's about rewriting the narrative for women in traditionally male-dominated spaces. Claressa is creating a legacy that says, "We belong here and we're not going anywhere." Claressa Shields, often regarded as the GWOAT, greatest woman of all time in boxing, has secured several sponsorships and endorsements deals throughout her career. She has appeared in campaigns for major brands, including Powerade Just a Kid campaign and an Audi commercial. Additionally, she has collaborated with Swimsuits for All, promoting body positivity and athleticism. Her influence extends beyond endorsements. Shields is involved in various community initiatives and has launched the Claressa Shields Community Project to support youth in Flint, Michigan. These partnerships and her growing media presence underscore her role as both a champion athlete and a marketable figure in sports. Political Ill, let's talk about the global politics of women's boxing.
Sure. First is the fight for Olympic inclusion. Women boxing faced significant resistance before it was included in the Olympics. The International Boxing Association, formerly known as the AIBA, has worked to secure and maintain its position on the Olympic stage. For example, women boxing debuted in the Olympics in 2012 after years of advocacy and reforms. Despite progress, governance, and integrity issues within the IBA have raised concerns threatening the sport's future in events like the 2028 Olympics. International recognition. The approach to women boxing varies widely. Countries with progressive sport policies like the UK and the US and some European nations have invested in promoting women's participation, while others still marginalize the sport due to the cultural and political resistance. These disparities affect access to resources, competition, opportunities, and overall development. The impact of legislation and policy. See, Title IX in the US has been a cornerstone for gender equality in sports in our country, opening doors for women in boxing and other traditional male-dominated fields. It has enabled better funding, access to training, and competition opportunities for women athletes at school and collegiate levels. Globally, similar laws are absent in many countries, perpetuating inequalities. When you look at a global comparison, nations like India and Ireland have used targeted government programs to uplift women boxers, producing Olympic champions such as Mary Kom and Katie Taylor. However, in countries lacking such policies, women boxing remains underfunded and overlooked. Even as progress has been made, systemic barriers persist due to governmental challenges within international bodies like the IBA. Political infighting, financial mismanagement, and lack of transparency impact the sport's growth, especially for women. For example, the IBA recent efforts to improve integrity and governance are seen as a step towards reform, but highlight how these issues have historically stymied the sport's advancement. This segment explores how systemic barriers and policies and politics directly influence the opportunity available to women in boxing. Comparisons between countries with supportive legislation and those without can emphasize the global disparity and the ongoing need to reform in sports governance. Now it's time to talk about the movie based on Claressa's life.
Yes, let's talk about The Fire Inside, the movie based on Claressa's life from growing up in Flint. This isn't just a sports film, it's a story of resilience. It captures her struggles from her tough childhood in Flint to becoming a global champion. The film also highlights her activism and the barriers she's broken. It's a powerful reminder that sports are about more than winning. They're about creating change. And it's also important for stories like Claressa's to be told. Representation matters, and seeing a strong black woman succeed against all odds can inspire the next generation of athletes. Before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. Here are some poll questions for our listeners that we can discuss on our next live. What's Claressa Shields' most significant contribution to boxing? Is it her Olympic gold medals? Is it her professional championships? Her activism and advocacy? Do you think women in boxing will achieve pay equity in the next decade? What impact do you think The Fire Inside will have on women's sports? Will it inspire more young girls to box? Will it change how women's athletes are viewed in the media? Both?
We'll share the results on our live episodes, so you all stay tuned.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've explored today. From the streets of Flint, Michigan to becoming a two-time Olympic gold medalist, multi-division world champion, and the undisputed greatest woman of all times, Claressa Shields' story is nothing short of extraordinary. She's not just a boxer, she's a trailblazer, a role model, and a symbol of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Claressa has shattered every glass ceiling in her way, proving that women belong in boxing just as much as men. But her fight doesn't stop in the ring. Claressa has taken on gender bias, systemic racism, and the inequities in media representation with the same ferocity she brings to her matches. She's demanding a seat at the table, not just for herself, but for the next generation of women boxers. And let's not forget her activism outside the ring, whether speaking out about the Flint water crisis, advocating for equal pay, or using her platform to push for better opportunities for women in sports. Claressa is the embodiment of what it means to be a disruptor. Her impact goes far beyond boxing. She's a force for change in society.
Yep, so we can't wait to see her story come to life in The Fire Inside. This movie is a chance for the world to witness not only her triumphs, but her struggles she's had to overcome to reach the top. It's a reminder that the fight for equality in sports and life is still ongoing. Claressa's journey is an inspiration to all of us, especially young girls dreaming of stepping into the ring or any space where they're told they don't belong. She's proof that greatness comes from grit, determination, and believing in yourself no matter what.
So, as we wrap up today's episode, let's remember the importance of not just celebrating legends like Claressa Shields, but continuing to fight for the equity and recognition that they and all women deserve. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey through Claressa's remarkable story. Let us know your thoughts. What inspires you the most about her journey? And how can we as a community continue to support women breaking barriers in sports? Remember, Claressa Shields isn't just a boxer, she's a movement. Her story reminds us that fighting isn't just about winning titles, it's about breaking barriers, challenging norms, and lifting others as you rise. She's living proof that being unapologetically yourself is the ultimate flex. And with the fire inside, the world will finally see the fire that drives her greatness. Thanks for joining us on Cess Talk Sports and Be Wise Polysports podcast. Keep fighting the good fight just like Claressa Shields, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue celebrating the incredible contributions of Black women in sports. Her journey reminds us of the importance of perseverance and humility. As one of the pioneers in women's boxing, she's paved the way for so many who will come after her. And remember, sports are never just about the game. It's about the stories we tell and the change we create.
Yep, and I'm Political Leo. Keep tuning in as we share more stories and perspectives that matter. Stay bold and stay inspired.
Until next time, stay wise and stay engaged. Make sure you support the movie The Fire Inside, the Claressa Shields story that comes out on Christmas Day. This is your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendency, Cess, and Political Leo signing off. Take care. Stay tuned. Talk soon, y'all. We out.